Hello, everyone. This is Eric Pennington, and welcome to the Spirit of EQ podcast. Joining me today is Timmy McCarthy with Cocoon Investments. Many of you out there may remember Timmy from his episode he did with us, The Curated Life, and that was probably a couple of months ago. He's been kind enough to join us again. Yeah, well, I'm glad you're here, Timmy. So just to kind of give a little bit of a frame for the audience out there. They wouldn't have known this because it was in my head when we were finishing up the last episode. I was going, man, I really want to get into that thing he's doing with the education piece, And I know you had asked me to help you out and record some stuff for your classes, and did that. And then it's like, I gotta get him back. So you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Glad to be with you again. It really, and I'm sorry I interrupted. I'm such a jerk. But it does not feel like it was only a month or two ago, or a couple of months. I think that's 3. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Timmy, as we dig right in, I know mentioned in the last episode that when you were in school, your direction was you wanted to go into education. You wanted to be a teacher.
Yes.
And as life delivers its different twists and turns, you went in another direction. But in some ways, at least if my memory serves, it kind of never left you. And when you moved on from your role, your venture in Canes, you kind of thought that might be what you would be doing next. Not necessarily as a teacher or a formalized professor full-time all the time. Who knows, maybe it will be. But I was curious about what you were teaching in some of the universities, like at Ohio State and Wittenberg, and what that program is about, and how is that sort of getting you amped, getting you excited?
Well, it's pretty interesting that you bring up those two places, because they're 2 different both styles of teaching, 2 different iterations, 2 different things we're kind of working through, but similar in certain veins. And so I'll start with OSU, because that's kind of where we left off. And the stuff that I'm doing at Ohio State is really talking about business ownership. Mm-hmm. And trying to demystify what business ownership is all about. So there's certain aspects of business ownership, I think, that are a little opaque, and I'm trying to also cross the bridge to make it a little bit more personal. So oftentimes when we get into business, we think it's this financial kind of at an arm's length, at a distance, almost transactional type of an experience. But when you're doing, in my opinion, when you're doing business well and correctly, it's very personal. It's very interactive. It's very community driven. And I would also argue kind of 2 things. Number one, the opaqueness around the financial aspects of business, on how do you get a loan? How do you start a business? How do you find the finances? How do you find the capital to start a business? And then this whole notion of, I'm not a business owner unless I start something from scratch, right, and 10x grow it. But that's just not 98% of America, and the entrepreneurs within America, the business owners within America, are not anywhere close to that. They have a great business. They do a great amount of business. They have a steady pace of growth. They employ people. I mean, it's just, that is the majority of American business and business ownership. So I think that, and if you want to dive into that, I can stop. So if you
I am going to interrupt you on that point, because you just brought something that has always had me curious, and that is, how did we get to thinking that the norm was 10 times growth versus what you just described? And my gosh, if the norm is supposed to be 10 times, and if you're not hitting 10 times, which, as you know, Timmy, most aren't, it seems like that would be a recipe for disappointment, maybe even overkill, because you're just, I got to get there. I got to get there.
At that point, you're keeping up with the Joneses, because most of the entrepreneurial mythology out there says and speaks to 10x growth, and you got to be the next Elon Musk and all of those kinds of things. And that's all well and good. That's great. Keep your eye on the prize. But when you fall short of that, just don't get bummed out. I really love the way you said it, which is just this. I mean, a lot of that type of thinking leads to disappointment, which then it's just a bum out thing. Let's say you have a business that does, let's call it $2 million or $10 million, right? And that's top line sales.
Yep.
That's a pretty great freaking business, but it's not a $26 billion business. So now I'm not good enough, right? Those kinds of things. That's a pretty ridiculous sentiment.
You know, I guess when I think about that, it reminds me of those. If you look today, if you click on an article on Forbes or some other magazine, online, newspapers too, I guess, and it's got a good headline, and then when you click on it, there's all this advertising everywhere. You're clicking X's so you can see the content type thing.
That's
It
right.
seems like it's that. It seems like it's really kind of, I want to get you in to by leading with 10 times, right? 10 times growth or whatever. And then when we get there, there's all the reality sets in. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. This is a vehicle for advertising. Oh my gosh. Well, is there any good content in here? And that's another thing that fascinated me about what you were doing, Timmy, is because as I've known you for some time, you're kind of that, I'm going to keep it real. I'm not going to be, you're balanced in that. And I think that's what a lot of someone thinking, I want to go into business for myself. I have an idea, being able to get that kind of balance in a class, it just seemed very powerful.
So it's funny. That's kind of what gave me the idea. I've been around now enough universities as a guest lecturer that I saw a common element, which was everybody was talking about, all the professors were teaching to this entrepreneurial mindset, which is all well and good, but not every concept is disruptive. And so that's what really sparked that. And thanks for the compliment of keeping it real. In my experience, most of the people that I interacted with were either parts of or doing business within, or doing business with multi-million-dollar companies, not multi-billion-dollar companies. And it dawned on me that, wait a second, what are we talking about? If we're trying to teach our students that it's all about this massive growth vehicle engine. I think it's showing this discontentment, because I think you can have a really great business taking care of your family, and putting food on the table by having a really nice couple of $1 million business. And even saying that out loud is like astronomically high in some people's minds, or astronomically low. And that's the funny part. It's not the middle ground. That's either almost unobtainable, or why are we even talking about a couple of $1 million business? That's not even worth getting out of bed for, quote unquote, right?
Well, and that brings up another point. Timmy, it's kind of this idea of, and I see this in the clients that we work with from time to time, is that there's a vacuum there of what is it, what do they really want?
Yes.
Right?
That is the question. That's the key question.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want?
And
it sounds like such a freaking selfish question, but it's not. It's the only question.
Right. Because to your point, right, if you came to me as an investor and said, Eric, your ideal, I love it. And we can grow this thing from 2 million to 10, we'll get to 100 million in 5 years. And we're going to have this, we're going to do this, we're going to hire these folks, we're going to build this team. But if I wanted to just be a consultant around the idea of the ideas, and I don't want tons of people reporting to me, and I don't want to work 12-hour days, I need to be able to say, Timmy, that's probably not a good fit for me. Now, Timmy, I get it. As an investor, you might say, well, look, I only do things where I can multiply this thing by 10 times.
Yep.
Okay, well, we part as friends. But Timmy, my concern is, what if I don't know? What if I don't realize I don't want that until we're at $100 million a year and I'm going, I hate this.
What if? Then, so I would argue, so there is a phrase in American business, and really kind of in the vein of entrepreneurship. And the phrase is founders flounder. And I think that what you just asked is at the essence and heart of founders flounder. That's one option of two. The other is, holy crap, my skill set as a founder is only good enough to get me to X size. Now, I either get to X size and I figure out how to take it out of the it's all about me phase so that we can get to that next phase, or I get to that place and I'm like, I don't enjoy this at all, or a little bit of both. And so then all of a sudden I start realizing that I've got to figure out how to convert myself out of the equation. So one of my business partners, you'll appreciate this. This was only 2 weeks ago, said, Timmy, I think what you're talking about is me to we to they. And I thought, oh man, that's really well put. So when you are starting a business, or even in a leadership role, this doesn't apply just to business ownership. This applies, in my opinion, to leadership in general. When your work product is on the line, it is a me scenario, right? It is all about what you can produce, how well you can produce it, the high quality, deliver it to high satisfaction to your bosses, right? Or for the company, right? I got 17 hats on. I'm the marketing person plus finance plus whatever. I've got to deliver. It's me. It's my butt on the line.
Yep.
Then I've got enough people around me, either in a leadership position. I've got, 4 or 5 people, or I've built a company, with 20 people in it or 100. Now it's we, right? And it's our thing. And as a leader, I have to take the vernacular off of my tongue to talk about, we did this together. It is our thing, right? Because now I've got a group of people that need to come on board with me, and we're doing this together and that kind of thing. Then it turns into they, where I actually have to hollow myself out as a human. My ego has to get out of there so that I can start talking about they did this. It is no longer about me, and it's no longer about we. Everybody wants to come to me and say, oh, it's so great. Look at what you did. And I get to say, they did it. I didn't do anything. Look at what they did. Aren't you proud? Let's be proud of them for the work that they did. That's not delegation. That's beyond delegation.
Yeah, because that's, and what's going through my mind, a couple of things. One is that you have experience of that being lived out in the ventures that you have been a part of, at least the ones that I am aware of. One of the things that I want to stress for those out there in the audience is the importance of examining of core beliefs. Because I just got to thinking, Timmy, someone could say, oh, wait a minute, you're telling me I need to know what do I really want. And if what you really want is shaped by core beliefs that are no longer appropriate, you're probably going to end in a destination that you're not going to like very well. And that's not a foreboding, you'll be at the point of no return and it's the end. It just means, oh my gosh, if I could look back and I could take the advice that someone gave me, the drill, right? So think about it this way. As you know, Timmy, we form our core beliefs early. They're typically formed most of the time from negatives, right? Most of them are negative stuff. I mean, we heard it from a parent, we heard it from a teacher. You're not good enough. The only people that make it in the world are those kind of people. And because we're so young when we form them, we don't have, our brain's not developed enough to be critical. Like, well, wait a minute. Is that actually true what Timmy said, that only certain people, blah, blah, blah? Is it true that what Eric said is that, well, I don't think that's the case. As kids, we absorb it.
Yep.
And this is not, I mean, it just happens, right? And so many of us, myself included, we go out into the adult life when we become, and we never question those core beliefs. And until you question them to see if are they still appropriate? Should I still be looking at the world in our lens, right?
Time out. Not supposed to question your core beliefs. How dare, what happens when you question those core beliefs? Yeah. Time out. That's scary. Why would you ever question your core beliefs?
Exactly, Timmy. And I say that to say, imagine if investors or incubators, whatever they are, when they encounter a new person or partners that come in with an idea, and maybe it's a really good idea, why not have a little bit of time spent? Maybe they send them to your course at Ohio State. Maybe they sit them down and, hey, we want to talk a little bit about your view, your mindset, your core beliefs, all those things. Because it seems to me that even though the risk of failure in a business, right, an entrepreneur venture is very high, we all know that, it would seem to me that the impact of those misalignments can be equally as great. Just my thought. But I wanted to put that out there because, when I asked that question of you, like, well, about do you know what people knowing what they want? If it's built on a foundation that's really not true or really not sustainable, it's going to be trouble. So, how I am with that. So go ahead.
But what if the company that you build and the company that is built because of your original idea or because of the thing you bought or how you partnered together with somebody or a bunch of people, what if that work was not about the thing that you built, but was the opportunity for self-work?
Great one.
What if the thing, what if it actually helped you become who you ultimately were or were to understand that you needed to be? Not because of this thing that you created and now you get to fly around on jets and do all these cool things, but because it actually allowed you to look so deeply inside yourself that you realized the fallacy of some of those strongly held beliefs that you grew up with.
Yes, and Timmy, I'm so happy that you went that direction, because without a doubt, I'm living, walking proof of he tripped, he got up, got hit with a hammer, tripped again, got up, fell in a mud patch, and then he was in a field that, wow, this field is pretty fertile.
So what you just said got me to a story that somebody, not a story, but it's reminding me of what somebody taught me a couple of years ago. And what they said was that the friction moments in our lives are the opportunities that we have to do examination, to self-examine, right? So something's not working. And what we oftentimes do, because it's a little bit easier to do, is point outside and go, this is wrong because this thing happened here. And then if only it would have happened this way instead of that way. And instead, what this person was pointing out to me and to others I was with is that if we skip past that opportunity to really kind of hit the surface and really dive into that self-reflection, that friction moment itself isn't an opportunity to go, oh, this, that, and the other thing outside. It's actually the opportunity to go, oh, wait, what do I need to examine about either my core belief or the chatter that's going on in my head around this topic, or what am I doing wrong, right? And that's the thing.
Yeah, and that kind of takes me to, just for our audience to understand that there's multiple roads in which we travel to get to the place. My hope is that place is that, hey, I have great self-knowledge. I know who I am. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. I know what's going to work for me and what won't work for me. But it's never linear. It's always somewhat, surprising, full of all kinds of accidents that seemingly at the time are accidents, but then you find out that no, that wasn't an accident. That was part of the journey. That was part of what it would take to get you to X, as you just kind of alluded to. So,
but we can't craft any of that journey. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry.
No. See, that's the thing, Timmy. We could do like Huberman and have like a 2-hour conversation, but unfortunately, I'm not Andrew Huberman, and you don't have that kind of time today. So let me pivot. So, and then you might have touched us on this in the last episode. Give me an idea about who it is that says, yeah, I'm going to take that class at whatever university you happen to be offering it. Who do they look like?
They don't look like anyone in particular.
Okay.
Really, because right now it's being offered to MBA students, but it was more like almost like the accidents you were talking about. It was more a proximity play for me because I had just graduated. And so I still had some points of contact where I said, hey, do you think here's how it really happened. I went in as a guest speaker. And at the end of my guest speaking, I said, listen, one night a month for 3 hours, I'm going to teach this topic. It's called business ownership, paint by numbers. And we're going to cover these topics, how to find capital and, those types of things. Is anybody in this audience interested? If you are, fill out this survey. Out of a group of 20 people, 10 filled out the survey. Oh, actually 11 filled out the survey and 10 said, I want to go. And other than MBA being the common thread, demographically, they are across the board.
Across the board.
Old, young, race, creed, everything. They are across the board.
Wow.
So there is no person that it looks like.
Yeah.
It's a person serious because it wasn't for class credit. That's the craziest part. And I still got 50% turnout and I've got perpetuity. So there's people still showing up, and this is 3 extra hours on top of the stuff they're already doing, and for no extra credit, for no course, for no grade. It's amazing.
Well, and that leads me into thinking, Timmy, what kind of responses have you got? And I want to do it twofold. What are they saying about the class current day, right? What are some of the feedback? And then if you can think of maybe what are some of the questions they're asking? Well, what's
Okay.
kind of maybe some of that common thread there?
So feedback I'm getting would be self-aggrandizing. So I don't know how to do
Yes,
that.
well, I did put you on the spot, didn't I?
Across. Um, let's just say that I mean, the fact that they keep showing up in
Yeah,
and of itself is the feedback. Because
yeah,
if it were boring and it's not for class credit, or it wasn't touching on the topics that they really wanted to know about, then I think I'd have attrition.
yeah.
That is not. I mean, that's not what's happening.
Okay, cool.
What was your second question?
What are some of the questions you're hearing in the class, and whether that's
Yeah.
fill in the blank. What are maybe the ones that have really been eye-opening for you?
So again, it's debunking or demystifying this thing called business ownership. I think this whole idea around I've got to have an idea from scratch that I then find money for and then get people on board with, and it's got to it's got to disrupt the current thinking or state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
I, where we started was just finding a need and filling it. One great company that comes to mind is a person that just decided that getting razors into people's hands that didn't have to go to the supermarket to get them or their local CVS or drugstore was a great idea. Mail order razors, right? And that's not all that disruptive. And yet, Dollar Shave Club, that's what that person did. I cooked chicken fingers for a living. What's disruptive about that? It's chicken fingers. Like
Yeah.
there's so a more simple format is simply the idea that there is a need in the marketplace that either can be met by an idea you have or is already being met, and all you need to do is either partner with them or buy the business that is already in existence, and you know yourself well enough that you can then take it to that next level, right? And so in my case, I partnered, right? I became a franchisee of a concept that already existed. I didn't come up with a new idea. I just bought into something that was already existing. And I think so. So I think that part of it is important. I also think that the idea of how to find money and how much money you actually need is a really, in most people's minds, super complicated. But it's actually not that. It's not that crazy or mystical.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you've got your hands on even a one-page sketch of how you would build something or grow something or whatever, most banks have an arm within their bank called, and is backed by the government, called the Small Business Association, or an SBA loan.
Yeah.
So that is debt capital. And then you've got equity capital, which most people talk about as either angel investors or venture capital. Most of that is earmarked for technology plays. If you're in the technology space and super scalable, all that kind of stuff, that's an avenue you can think or talk about. On the other end, you've got this debt capital that is all affiliated with small business association loans and friends and family routes. So those are two ways that you can raise money and get your idea off the ground without a lot of heavy lifting on your end. Now, you got to have an idea that can make it and survive and pay your bills and pay people back and that kind of
above,
but,
right?
But it's as easy as making a list of the organizations that you know and start calling them, start emailing them, and setting up a meeting. I mean, that's it's not more complicated to go get money from an institution that literally their whole job is to lend you money.
Right. And I do believe you, what you said earlier.
Paper that has your idea on it, or the thing you want to buy, and you go talk to the person at the front desk about a meeting on that topic. That's it. And then you go do 100 of them or 10 of them or 50 of them or however many you need to in order to, right? But you have a list of all the places that would lend you that money and you go talk to them.
Well, and Timmy, I can think back to my early days of entrepreneurism, and I I'm sure I did. I had somebody say, "Hey, have you looked into a small business loan or a small, the SBA thing?" And I remember then going, "Oh, they're not going to lend any money to me. My idea is not this and it's not that." So I just totally dismissed it without not even making the call, not reaching out. It was just, "Oh, that's not going to work." Which brings me back around to why I think your course can be so powerful, because the way that you explained it there, I got to believe there's some out there that would and probably already have gone, "Oh, well, I could do that." I mean, and I get it. Yes, one bank will say no, two banks will say no. Your mom said she would and then changed her mind. I mean, we know that drill, but ultimately, it's a worn out phrase or quote from, I think it was Wayne Gretzky. You miss 100% of the shots you never take.
Yes, and if you don't pick up the freaking phone and make the first phone call and find out that there actually is a human on the other end of the line or a respondent to your email, that all of a sudden they say, "Oh no, I'm sorry. This idea doesn't fit for us." But just that response says, "This idea doesn't fit," means, wait a second. They took the time to respond, which means I can do this again. And just because it didn't fit for them, there's gotta be somewhere where it does fit. I just gotta go find that thing, that place, that person.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And it took me 10 banks before anybody sat down with me. I sat down for an hour-long meeting at 10 different places before I finally got the first person to say, "Yeah, we actually could do this, but we got to get some collateral." And I said, "What the hell is collateral?"
Yeah. So, one thing that you were saying in there that I think would be so helpful for those, future or fledgling entrepreneurs, right? And that's that idea, or in our world, we call it a competency of emotional intelligence called consequential thinking, weighing the costs and benefits of the choices and decisions you make, right?
Like that.
So, and I want to make sure, again, well, for the audience, it's not a statement of will it work or won't it work, because it's not that simple.
Yes.
However, as you're encountering, maybe it's your fifth no from a bank, consequential thinking can come in and say, "Okay, what's the cost of me stopping now? What's the benefit of me continuing?" And I get it. And my hope is, Timmy, is that someone who's listening to this episode might go, "Oh man, 2 months ago, I was listening to that episode with that Timmy McCarthy, and he was saying,"
yeah,
right? I mean, because absent of that, I do believe that we can get ourselves into missed opportunities, right?
Yeah.
Because we weren't applying that approach to evaluation. Yeah, it's just powerful.
Well, offended fear of rejection, right?
Yeah.
And like you said on the Gretzky quote, 100% shots you don't take, all that. You don't take the shots because you think that no means you suck. No
Right.
doesn't mean suck. No just means no, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's it. And so we have a tendency, and I do too, all the time, still today, to believe that a no means I don't love you, or I don't like you, or I don't like your idea, or you suck.
Right. There's something deficient in you.
Right. And
Yeah.
and so I take it personally, and I'm like, oh, maybe I do suck. Oh, that's too bad. And then the mental chatter starts going, and it's like, oh, you do suck. Oh man, don't even bother.
Gosh, Timmy, because you just hit on something there. We when we talk about fear, right? And fear, especially as an emotion, is one of those ones that, and I'm like you, if I'm not careful, I mean, that swirl can start and it accelerates, right? But imagine if we're able to tackle fear at its initial knock on the door, right? To identify it. Okay, why am I afraid here? Well, what's behind this fear? Versus, oh, maybe it is true. And then the spiral happens. And it's so, for me, speaking for me, it is so hard when the spiral is down 100 feet to try to climb back up to just base level, right? And to my point, long way around, is that this idea of fear, sound like Roosevelt, fear is the only thing we have to fear, or whatever, however that goes, right? I think if we can, and it might take that practice of, okay, when that feeling comes, let me get on it right away. Let me test it. Let me ask the questions. Is it true? Is it really something that I should stop for? Is this a grizzly bear, or is this just me taking chatter from 20 years ago? Some kind of testing, right?
I love it. And so I know that you are a believer in what I'm about to say, in that teaching comes from everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
The amazing part about us arriving here is that not but a couple of hours ago, as I was walking my 9-year-old son into school this morning, he said, "Dad, we need to talk." And I said, "Okay." Because yesterday we had some challenging, it was a Christmas Eve event at my my in-laws and the whole thing, and sugar abounds and all of that, and right. I didn't handle myself well, and he wasn't exactly on point either. And he said, "Dad, we need to talk." And I said, "Okay, I'm listening." And he said, "Dad, do you know the difference between the wise owl and the guard dog?" And I said, "No, what?" And he said, "In your emotional state, you have the wise owl at the front and you have the guard dog at the back. And there's about 10 seconds where the wise owl can get in the way and stop the guard dog from taking over and taking control." And he said, "Yesterday, I think that you let your guard dog take control without your wise owl getting in the way." And I went, whew.
Oh yeah.
A little goosebumpy. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, is that just me, or right? I mean, being the dad, I'm like, whoa, this is a teaching moment. I'm going to teach you how to, and like, no, it's for all of us, because we do have those moments where the guard dog, right, is thinking that it's a bear attack, when the wise owl just needs to be like, yeah, no, you're going to be fine. Just chill for a little bit and let this all happen and transpire. You don't need to guard.
Man, that's profound. And that gives me a tremendous level of hope. And a 9-year-old somewhere along the line has been learning about that, because that basically is emotional intelligence wrapped in one really cool story. And, the beauty of it too, Timmy, and not a lot of people realize it. I think more of it's starting to blossom for people to understand. And that is that your brain is not your enemy. That guard dog is there for a good reason. All right. But it's supposed to work hand in hand with the wise owl.
Yes.
We have grown up, many of us have grown up, really kind of leaning in on the guard dog. And when you look at our society, we spend so much time in survival mode. What's around the corner? How is it going to work out? And what will they do next? And what if, and what if, and what if? That's a call for the guard dog, man. I mean, yep. That is. But that's just awesome. All right. Because of your time, our time, I've got to pivot. And we'll put in the show notes, everyone, information for Timmy, if you'd want to get a hold of him, if you want to ask him some questions, learn more about the courses that he's teaching. But I'm going to ask you, Timmy, to pull out your crystal ball. And I know up until the time that we scheduled this, you probably didn't even know you had a crystal ball. Because
just found out this afternoon.
Right, exactly. So this comes with a bit of a warning for our audience. It is only a crystal ball. Neither Timmy or I, and where we're going next, are going to say for sure. But because I value your thoughts and how you are perceiving and maybe analyzing what's happening, when we look out into 2023, and I'm not going to go there, hey, Timmy, do you think we're going to go into recession? That's not, there's been enough of that talk. So we won't exhaust that one. But what are some things that you're seeing out there in 23 and even maybe beyond? Could be positive, could be negative, that has really got your attention as of late?
I do think we're just going to have a settling down. And I mean on a lot of different fronts where I think that this has been an anxiety-ridden couple of years. And nature holds some context, I think, for us that, well, let me say it this way. I love whitewater rafting. A buddy of mine is actually and I actually went and cooked chicken fingers with him for a while. His name's Christo, and he is a whitewater rafting guide, and one of the more well thought of ones on the river, on many rivers, because when you're a whitewater rafting guide, you actually go from river to river to river, looking for work and that kind of stuff. And so, so you have on the other side of rapids an event, an occurrence, kind of usually off to the side, and they're called eddies, where the water kind of slows down and recirculates and chills for a little bit. And then it enters back into the stream that's going a lot more slowly than it was when you were hitting all those rocks and rapids and all of that. And I mean, I get the sense that we're heading into an eddy. So 2023, I think, is just, we've had huge growth and huge disruption and huge tumult. And I think 2023 is just going to be kind of it's not going to be fully chilled out because it's recirculating and kind of hanging, but it's going to be a lot less intense. That's my belief.
Yeah. So within that, what are some things that maybe come to your mind, even just in this moment, of how you would say, whether it's somebody in your class or maybe it's somebody you were formerly with when you were at Canes, or maybe a current business partner, what can they do, do you think, to kind of navigate that form of a rapids or a river?
I think, as you've said, and we use the guard dog in this context,
right?
And I would even, we just, we love, our brain loves problems. Our brain loves to perceive problems, to perceive things as problems, and enjoy a good fight. And I think when we come to an eddy, we think, I got to be on guard. Hold on, something's coming. This can't be too calm. This is weird. I don't know about this. So I need to get back on the balls of my feet so I can be ready for the next thing that's coming. Oh man, this is really bad. And it's just hangout time. And so that would be what I would encourage, which is in these moments of the potential of rest, to not look around for what's coming around the corner, to actually just sit back, chill out, enjoy the downtime, because you got to be ready. You got to have the energy ready for when the high intensity comes, and not to too hard, too often.
And you know what? It's been my hope for a long time that people will become more aware that they were made to be able to be on the river in all of its various forms. I find so many people think, whether they think they're not good enough or they're not capable of, thinking, I can only handle a portion of it. I can handle that eddy, but that's about as good as I can go. And the reality is that all of us, we're on this river.
Yeah.
And there's time.
Water rapids all the time, whether you know it or not.
Exactly, Timmy.
Able to handle it. I totally agree.
Yeah. And certainly our work is certainly partly designed, if I can say it that way, for people to gain that understanding. Maybe not in a, sort of that overt way, but just that, look what you've accomplished. Look what you've survived. Look what you learned to navigate when you'd never experienced it before. And I get it. Everybody wants an eddy. Why can't the river be like an eddy all the time? I mean, yeah, but you know what? And I use this analogy with one of my kids. So name me one movie that you just loved and would see over and over again, where all of the characters had everything go their way.
Yes.
No problems. Everything was up. I mean, quite frankly, Timmy, we both know that's awfully boring. And I'm not watching that movie. Right. But give me the movie. And this is another reference. Jeff will be somewhat proud of me. I'm getting close to a music reference, but it's a movie reference. I don't know if you've seen the movie Argo. And Argo, for those in the audience it was an Oscar-nominated film. It was back many years ago. Ben Affleck was the main actor. And it's about the story of the hostage taking in Iran back in 1979. That movie, Tim, and it's not the only one. It's what I love about it. It is, I mean, you know what the outcome was, but I found myself sitting there going, okay, do they realize that those guys are not going to go for that? And then it gets, oh, okay, all right, that's good. Oh my gosh, there's that. And that is life. And granted, nobody says you have to say, I love it. It's just, I don't like it, but I want to navigate it.
Yep.
That's where the gold is. So what's as we're kind of getting close to the end here, what's something that you're working on now? And it could be even a little bit of the class and the educational thing that's got you real excited, whether it's for the, like, right in front of you, or for something that is coming in 23. What's it got you excited?
So I found out that there are such things as student-run corporations, and they're at a couple of universities around the United States. And I realized what a great way for students to take the theory of business and apply it while they're still on campus, using profit and loss statements and cash flow and balance sheets and all of that as the language of business, and borrowing money and paying back, and those types of things where that's what I'm most excited about bringing to Wittenberg, is allowing student-run corporation to be on Wittenberg's campus, and for them to learn and grow through the practice of doing. So
Wow.
I was pretty excited about that.
Wow. I had
Lots
no
of work
idea.
to do. That's
Is this just to kind of expand a little bit, has this been a trend, or is this something that just kind of came upon? I'd not heard of this.
It's been around for, the University of Dayton's had it on their campus for 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I got it in my head about, okay, so what happens when the thing really starts to take off? Does it spin off out of the university and goes into being a private, or?
That's what we're going to find out. This is back to
I love it.
Back to not knowing, right? I mean, this is the fun of, like, I don't know. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Is anybody going to care? Is nobody going to care? How do we sustain it when every 4 years you lose your people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's literally, unlike the restaurant industry that maybe they won't leave, there's literally a 4-year time horizon. So it's pretty fun.
And I got to tell you, Timmy, because in one of our most recent episodes, we were talking about David Goggins, and the former Navy SEAL. He's an outrageous athlete, and maybe not athlete, but he does these ultra marathon type things, 200-mile races,
Right.
that kind of stuff. Former Navy SEAL, real intense guy. But he was on a Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking about the issue around talent and mental strength, right? And he was talking about how the danger in being talented, or the danger of talent, is that it can be used to a point and people get complacent with where that has taken them. So they have an unwillingness to go any further out. And one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about for 2023 is examining areas of my life where, well, why didn't you, or why don't you reach out and take that course? Why don't you ask that person if they'll have coffee? What's been holding you back, right? And all of us, I know, have our specific areas. I'm not going to go into mine today, but there was one particular one that I've always wanted to do it. I've always had a desire for it. I've always wondered if I could do it. But you know what I did? In my head, Timmy, I would say things like, I don't think I can. I don't think I have that.
Or that person is too busy, or they don't have time for me, or they'll say no, might as well not.
Right. And especially the more personal the particular area is, the more daunting it can be, because it's one thing if it's something that's going to stretch you beyond your talent and put you sort of exposed, right? And the way I've been thinking about it, in connection with what you said about the university model, with the university corporation, if you will, is it's inspiration for all of us that we don't know, but we're going to try it. We don't know, but we're going to try it. And why does that need to be a call for the guard dog, right?
Right.
Well, why do we need, oh, no, I could never do that, Timmy. Oh, no, Timmy, I've got to, oh, no. I'm just saying that piece in and of itself is great inspiration to just, if you've got something, those of you in the audience that you it's been in your head, and maybe it's been an itch that you can't scratch enough. Why not just pick up the phone? Why not just send an email, inquire?
So I'll leave you with this. My dad as my one of my best friends from high school was graduating. Still see him today. Was graduating high school. He bought him one of those, maybe it was from Successories or something like that, but he bought him this paperweight type rock, and on the front of it was written, "Whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right."
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's a double money quote. Oh my gosh, Timmy. What a way to end our episode. Yeah, and that will be in the show notes as well. You can count on that. Oh my gosh, Timmy, I can't thank you enough for taking out the time with us again. And I wish you all the best on your endeavors. And obviously, we're going to want to have you back to give us some updates on the university thing and more. And with that, audience, really appreciate you tuning in today. We look forward to the next time that we're together. Take care.
See y'all. Bye, Eric. Thank you.